Okay. And I'm just going to count down from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and action. Do all that stuff. All right. I hope this is good enough, but hey guys, welcome to, I can't even remember what number webinar we're on, the Accountability Success Circle webinar series, the monthly webinar series, and we are on number 38, which means it's been like, this is our third, 12, 24.
I mean,
it's like, we're starting our fourth year of webinars, which is just crazy. I think I counted that right?
yeah.
You're here with me today, Apryl Schlueter, and Rebecca's here. She's actually going to be facilitating or leading the topic that we talk about today. And, every October, we kind of keep the same theme every year, and that theme is annual planning, which is super important to the way we run things in the ASC, because we use January for the calendar year as like a nice jump start to kick off a new fresh year. You can start your year at any point, but we like to align with the calendar year. And in order to hit the ground running come January, we always try our best to focus on annual planning in October, because of the fact that, the holidays kind of start up in November, and the year starts to wind down and people are doing a lot of socializing, and there's a lot of time that is spent on things other than thinking about what you're going to do in the next year. And for those of you who are parents, September's kind of busy as you're getting your kids ready for school. I think some people even think about that as the new year, but that's a very busy time. And so October is a great month that is kind of in the middle of that all, where it still might be busy, but the calendar year is winding down, and we really want to take the time, the little patch of silence that you might find in the last quarter of the year, to think about what it is that you want to accomplish in the next calendar year. And we do it in a very intentional way. It's not just like, hey, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, or hey, I'm going to make, I'm going to get a new job, or hey, I'm going to, make X amount of dollars, or hey, I'm going to find the love of my life. We're looking at the entire holistic perspective of your life during this month of October, so that then we have the rest of the year, as we're getting ready for the holidays, etc., to really set ourselves up for that January start, and can actually say, yes, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. And here is the game plan for how I'm going to do that. And here's all the adjustments that I have to make in my life in order to accommodate that goal. So that is kind of why we like to focus on October as the start. There's a lot of things that we do in terms of annual planning, which is, we have an annual planning retreat, which we kicked off. Oh my God, how many weekends ago was that? It was 2 weekends ago, right?
Yeah.
It was only 2. And I think that, our whole leadership team has just been getting our bearings back after facilitating this amazing time. But we also, with this webinar, always like to talk about and reinforce the importance of planning during this time of the year and the benefits of that. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that entails. And there's no way that we could do that in an hour, but, in terms of like talking through what we do in the retreats, and you might want to look back at some of the other October 2020, October 2021, October maybe 2019 also, just talking about all of these things that we would do. But of course, the process evolves. We have, really thought about how to make this an experience that is, kind of coming at you from all different sides. We've got the play, we've got the planning, we're thinking about, wellness, we're thinking about all of these things in what I would call our wheel of life, and making sure that we are paying attention to all those things. So I'm going to actually turn it over to Rebecca. She's, one of the facilitators of the retreat, and she shared some really interesting things at the retreat. But I don't want to spoil too much of what you might share today, because I actually don't know, and I'm excited to hear. But what I love about our leadership team is that we all have the values that bind us, but we all come from different perspectives and can look at annual planning from that perspective. So today we're going to talk about how to make 2023 your best year yet. And it's not just going to be, I will chime in whenever Rebecca wants me to, but I'm going to be gleaning wisdom from her. And I see Terry is in the chat. So, hey, Terry.
Hey, Terry.
So if you are watching this either live or watching it on the replay, feel free to throw some comments in the chat as you go. So, all right, Rebecca, are you ready to take it?
Yes, we're here. And when I said, hey, Terry, I don't even want to yell at it again, because Suri was like, hey, Suri. There she goes.
She's like,
there she goes again. So she thought she was Terry. But anyway, yes, thanks for the big intro and the catch up. And if anyone is like chomping at the bit to like do the whole process, we have that still available. So I know April's added the links and everything. It's not too late. So even though maybe you didn't get to come out here in person or even join live a couple weekends ago, you can still go through the process. And Gary, myself, and Apryl did it before the weekend. And I can say that you can do it very smoothly, very legibly. You could carve out a full day. You could split it up over a couple of days if you wanted to, give yourself a weekend to do it. But it's all videos, very timely content, and ways to navigate through the process. Just a little bit different than what you get in person, but still like well worth it. So anyway, know that you can still get that. And like what Apryl was saying, we do this every year and we each bring a different element to it. And, Gary's not here today on the webinar, but he's our play guy. He adds this really fun, creative take to a lot of the things that can be, life, very serious. And I come at it from more of this wellness angle. And the more I get into, I have years of doing work in the physical world of like personal training, and the body definitely, without the health of your body, like, what do you have at this point? Because this is like our vehicle for this life. So sure, I've been there and I've pushed that in the past, and I'm always about that. And then, my life experience and training led me more into like the mind. And I've learned about mindset for years now through different coaches and programs that I've been a part of, but also in the meditation lens, and then manifestation comes with that. And so I've really been in that for probably more recently than the yoga and the physical fitness. And then comes like soul, spiritual energy work. And so now I'm also learning even more about how to heal at that level, how to transform at that level, because maybe those of you watching, whenever you're watching, can relate, but it's like there was some meme at some point, like you can drink all the green juices and still like whatever, be a jerk, or you can put your leg behind your head in yoga and still be an asshole kind of thing. So it's like, there's a point where all that stuff doesn't matter. Like it matters and then it doesn't, because there's still more, and there's still a deeper layer of who you are and the way you move through this world that isn't just physical. You could eat the healthiest meals and still not accomplish your goals, right? Like it's not just body. It's not just mind. Like you could think your way through anything, but at a certain point, either your brain's going to get overloaded, too much energy going on, that can lead to like the anxiety. It can also only get you so far because the mind is programmed to keep us safe and like do things in patterned ways. And there's the left side of the brain, the right side of the brain. And that's a different conversation too. So then it's like, okay, well, you can't think your way through life either. So then what do we have left? Well, we got this layer of soul, of spirit, of energy, of emotion. And so I wanted to tie that into today, because as you might have read the bullet points of this webinar series, number 38, we're going to learn how to use this combination of effort, but also ease. So you can sit for hours and plan and formulate and do all these things. And then still, like, either you're going to get worn out, whether it's in the form of stress or just like, you can only get so far doing things that way. At some point, there has to be that, not just the intention that we like to provide, but you have to have everything lined up in the sense of, maybe you can relate to thoughts, feelings, words, actions, like all that has to be present. So you can have the thoughts and you can have the actions, but if you don't have the feelings, if that's not aligned, it's like building, like imagine I had some blocks here and we were trying to build a full tower, and we had the thoughts, like I'm going to build this tower. We did the actions, like we start building the tower. But if we don't have that strong enough feeling foundation in there, it's not going to be a complete tower. Similar to doing something like a project, like writing a book, like Apryl has written book number 2 is coming, right? So it's like, she thought about it. She could think about it all day, but is that book actually going to come true? No, like just by thinking, no, like she has to put action into it. And so then she could also put action into it and think about it. But if her heart isn't in it, if her like emotion isn't in it, it's just going to be flat. It's probably going to fall flat. So I think like these examples probably get what I'm saying. Like you have to have that layer of also ease and energy and awareness and heart and soul into all that you are building in life, whether it's a book, a literal tower, or whatever. And I just recently tore a puzzle apart that I didn't finish. And I recorded a podcast on this the other day because I just was realizing how symbolic it was too of putting together this puzzle months ago. I was like, you know what, I'm going to go get a puzzle. I like doing puzzles because they're a great outlet, right? They can give you a little meditation time just to like put your brain. And I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but I know for me, I would go years without doing puzzles. And when I would sit down and do a puzzle, like I did that in 2020 for the first time in a very long time, it's like, oh my gosh, this is like working new parts of my brain. I could feel parts of my brain unlocking. So that's a whole other thing too for another day. But so I got this puzzle and I was feeling really good. Like, oh, it's bringing me joy. I can feel it work in my brain. Like this feels awesome. And then the puzzle sat for weeks, partly because this puzzle was from Dollar Tree and the puzzle pieces were, no joke, the size of my fingernails. Very hard, very deceiving from the outside, of the box. And I've gotten puzzles from Dollar Tree before. They're great. But this one was made by a different manufacturer or whatever. And I did not realize how tiny the pieces were. So I'm like putting together this puzzle, mentally saying, do it. You want the outcome that usually puzzles bring you, of meditation, of time to create, of this. But it wasn't quite it, because like one, the puzzle itself wasn't great. And then my emotional connection to it had been zapped because something just wasn't aligned with really what I was going for. So in this whole, like, I just tore the puzzle apart, not finishing it thing, is like, how often do I tell myself you've got to finish the puzzle, when really, if there's not like in that case, like joy, literally joy, I wanted some joy from the puzzle. If that has already been zapped and I can feel like there's just no way that this is going to bring me that original intention, I had to take my own awareness and give it to myself, like, you know what, I don't need to solve this puzzle right now. I can actually put it back in the box. So point being, like, it has to feel good to have like the desired outcome. And what we spend a lot of time on in all of these planning retreats is connecting to values. And Apryl has resources in the ASC of her wheel of life. The values assessments are there. So check all that out. And that's always a great thing to go back to, because if you're trying to create the next year, say 2023, on emptiness or no values, like, yeah, you can probably start to take action and it's going to feel like good, just because momentum and progress probably feels good. But if you don't have a foundation of values, including maybe it's that core desired feeling, a way you want to feel, if you don't have that, you're only going to get so far. And then you might need to face that point where you're looking at the puzzle going, okay, I actually need to destroy this, put it away, and commit to something new that has a little more depth and foundation and feel good to it. So when we talk about combining effort and ease, I hope that makes sense, of having like some effort and some structure, but then also feeling this energetic ease and flow. And when that is disrupted, having the awareness to go like, hold on, this isn't feeling easy, like EASY-Y. It's not feeling easy anymore. So how do you get back to that place of ease? Well, one way is to reconnect to, I use the word joy a lot. It's not just about joy, but it's about those feelings that are feel-good feelings. So Apryl, I might pull you into this. So maybe, I don't know if you connect to the word joy, but what's like that highest state? Is it happiness? Is it fun? Is it like, what word or feeling is that top place for you?
I don't connect to joy at all. No, I'm kidding.
No joy.
You're like, I don't know if you connect to joy. And I'm like, nope. I just like
fun. What's tattooed on your arm? I think it's fun.
Fun is tattooed on my arm. I think that is where my joy is, because just the way that I see it is, it encompasses laughter, it encompasses joy, which, even though I see those as two different things, they definitely, they're interrelated, right? But fun can kind of encapsulate all of that. So the laughter, the joy, fulfillment, all of those things. So I typically tend to go towards fun, but then I also go towards cheerfulness, just because that's part of my brand.
The cheerfulness.
So,
Yeah. So if you were to like start something, I mean, we could even use writing the book. So obviously there's something more to writing the book than just like, I should write a book. But could you imagine the process if if it wasn't a little bit fun, the value of cheerfulness, that higher feeling wasn't there? Like, do you feel like you could have written the first book, or would you be writing the next book?
Well, I mean, I think, what's really interesting about the book writing process is that the first one, I think there was the joy in and the fun in having accomplished it, right? Because it was like, I want to write a book because it's this big, grandiose, because accomplishment is one of my values as well. And it was like, that was what was keeping me going and writing that book, because I was chasing the accomplishment. But what's also really interesting is that I finished that book so burnt out. Not, I was, kind of embracing the newness and the unknown of what it's like to be a first-time author. And when it was all done and over with, I was exhausted. To the point where, like I still reflect back now and feel like I didn't do promotion justice because I was so burned out. And so that part of it wasn't fun for me. And I was pretty sure I was never going to write another book again. And so, what's interesting about that is that now, as I'm writing this new book, last time I was like, I'm going to write it in 10 weeks, which actually then became 10 months, but I'm not putting a timeline on how long it's going to take me to write the book there. I'm trying to give myself deadlines so that I can move forward, but I'm trying to do it in this place of ease because, writing a book's not easy. We have some, new first-time authors in the ASC within even just the last couple months, Gary included. And it's exhausting. And so understanding some of those priorities, like I can't write another book and do it the way that I did it last time, because it wasn't fun. And I wouldn't do that to myself. But, the excitement of the accomplishment kept me going, which is also, one of my priorities, but now there's other priorities that have popped up. If I'm going to do this again, I'm going to really enjoy the process. And if that means it takes me 5 years, then it takes me 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Just share. And it just makes me think too, like sometimes you just have to learn for yourself too. I mean,
Yes.
so many people could tell you the way you do this, it's going to burn you out. It's going to burn you out. And part of me is like, you know what? I got to figure this out myself. Like I have that part of me. I don't know if you want to call it stubborn or whatever, but I don't think it's wrong at all. It's like, sometimes that's just what I hear you. And I'm still going to do it the way that maybe is 100%. Not suggested. And I'm going to learn the hard way, but you still got to feel accomplishment. So then, it's like learning to like point out the highlights in a situation that sure, we could be like, and you were burnt out, but also a feeling of accomplishment. And you can have both in the same experience. And now learning from that, next time you're going to just level it out a little bit. So for those of you maybe reflecting in and listening to this, thinking of whether it's a new goal or intention you have for your future, whether it's next year or something more immediate or whatever. Okay, is it something you've tried in the past? And what's some past data? Because we can use the past to learn from for sure. Like the past isn't something to get hung up on, but to use it as this fuel, as this resource, take that past data and then create future results with it. But then somewhere in the middle, realizing, okay, so what do I need to remind myself from last time that's going to hold these higher states that feel more easeful, whether it's just remembering that I want to focus on the accomplishment and that kind of can carry me through some of what might be a little stressful. I don't think that's a wrong way to approach it, of just remembering the highlight, but it's also tending to yourself, like reminding yourself to like always check like your physical well-being too. Or is it like, okay, yeah, I'm going to set this new goal and I know it's going to require like some actual productivity. And, how was I in the past when it came time to like be more productive, X, Y, and Z? And then how do I need to be right now in the present to move forward? And I find like this present stuff, it's going to be different for everybody. For me, I have to press on the gas pedal a little bit and be a little more structured in time management. But I also know that I can only do that so much before I feel like screw this and this is exhausting and this is too like analytical. I need to have some elements of play, of fun, of freedom. So what is it that you listening need to keep that ball rolling? So whether productivity is natural for you or it's going to be a little edgy for you from past data, what do you know you need to get through what might be a little bit of a hump so you can actually move into the actual goal setting. So I'm kind of feeling like today too is a little bit of that in-betweenness where like we're not to 2023 yet, but we're talking about 2023 right now. So we have like a few months literally. And I think it's a good time to not only set those goals, but use this middle time once you can start to do that planning and you have your quarters lined up. And let's highlight even what's going to get in the way. Where can you add more ease? So I actually want to show an image that some might have seen before, and I have it in the High Vibe Guide that I recently posted in the ASC. So I just grabbed this from my little ebook. You can see that, right, April? So
yes, I can see it.
The vibe check, this is the image of colors of the scale is more of what I'm wanting to highlight here. I'm gonna make it big on my screen. So at the very top, we've got joy, appreciation, empowered, love, freedom. This is from, I think, lawofattraction.com. So I did not create this image, but there's a lot of different renditions of it out there. You can see the arrow up the whole right side there, move up the emotional scale. And you can just scroll through. I mean, some of these colors at the very bottom, we have fear, grief, despair, powerlessness. Right above it, we've got guilt, unworthiness, jealousy, hatred, rage. Like none of these places are bad, even though our brain might label them like, oh no, I don't want to be in jealousy. Oh no, I don't want to be in guilt. I mean, sure, you don't want to hang out at the bottom too long, but just like any bottom, you can always rebound off of it. So really the main point first is to just notice how many emotions you might feel in a given time. There are many more than this. And to optimize it, it's just building emotional intelligence, just like mental intelligence, just like intelligence of all these different facets that we can think of, but specifically emotional/energetic. So emotions are energy in motion. So when I talk about energy, emotions, it's all kind of the same thing, just depending on the lens we're looking at it through. So when you see that, okay, at the very top, and the idea really is to move up ultimately, because that's where we're going to be in our high vibes. And we hear about good vibes and high vibes. Like, what does that mean? Well, it is an actual vibration of our being, of our energy. So if we're letting ourselves be in pessimism or boredom, it's not bad, but there's higher places we could go. Though sometimes I've seen boredom as the middle place. So if you're bored, it's not a bad thing. Boredom could be viewed as kind of that launch pad where once you're bored, okay, that's better than being negative and like in grief and despair and fear, but there's room to go. And boredom can be maybe a neutral space. So sometimes I do see boredom more in the middle. But if you look at this and just take a moment, notice even how you're feeling right now. And if you're not used to labeling your emotions, it might take a little longer, but the more you tune into like, okay, what is this that I'm feeling? And again, it could be something not on this chart. And then where are you on the scale? Would you like to move higher, or is where you are at, is that serving you? So joy, although sure, I think love and joy are all of our highest places to be. You may not want to be there right now. Maybe you're actually getting something out of feeling anger. There's a lot of talk around healthy aggression and anger. So it's not bad to be pissed off, especially when there's a lot of injustice constantly going on. So noticing for yourself too, in the sense of emotions, are you making excuses to not feel good, and realize that you can feel good and still dabble in, you know what, right now I'm feeling some hatred, I'm feeling some rage. And then let your regular state be something a little higher, but you can dip and flow and take a little ride through, because to be human is to feel all of these things. We would not be human if we only lived at love all the time, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions. So, but at the same time, to stay at the bottom all the time, you're also missing out on the spectrum that life can provide you. So my encouragement around all of this is to just keep this in mind as you're starting to look at your life in the big, like 2023 or big future. And just remembering that it's always going to be up and down in life. Life gets lifey. And then in your own inner everything, your emotions are going to be up and down. And so when you're moving through goal setting, there's going to be points of effort. But then there's also going to be points of ease, especially if you remind yourself to add them in. And so maybe that ease, we're kind of peeling back the curtain even more, maybe that does come into understanding where you're at emotionally in a given moment when you're trying to create something, but maybe you actually just need to be pissed off for a minute and let that emotion pass. Or maybe you need to do something that moves you up the scale a little bit so you can be in a state of like hopefulness when you're writing a book about accomplishment. Imagine writing a book about accomplishment coming from a place of like jealousy the whole time. Like that wouldn't be like the most motivating book on accomplishment. So just understanding that you might need to navigate your own inner world as you're creating this outer world, because the outer world's going to reflect the inner world at some point, whether that shows up in a manifestation in your physical well-being, your actual life, what have you. It's all tied to energy. So I'll make sure that we toss the link if you want to read my whole little vibe. It's just a little free ebook that I have, and it goes a little bit more into some of this. So anyway, do I still have you with me, Apryl? Does this make sense? Is this new? What does this bring up?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've not seen that image before, but it kind of was interesting because as I was looking at it, when you were talking about kind of boredom's kind of the like middle, there's like, you're not feeling the joy, but you're not like in the angry place, right? But what's interesting is that if you just look at the image itself, like boredom was a little bit higher on the list, right? It wasn't like dead smack in the middle where it's like you can always be happy and always or be angry, and that's like the middle ground. And maybe feelings wise it is, but there's all of these like negative or more negative, and in my coaching program we call them catabolic, like these energy drains where there's jealousy and there's fear and there's grief and there's sadness. There's so many more feelings that you can feel in the not so joyful realm, and they carry a lot more weight than they do, which kind of just, it made me think about how you look at that where it's sometimes hard to be like super happy all the time. I think I tend to try to be more on the joyful side of things, but there's a lot of me that it maybe sits in that boredom or just contentness, because I'm not like bouncing off the walls happy all the time. But we all experience these fits of like jealousy or rage or at any time, and they just carry so much more energy and drain us that much more. And so it's just really interesting to kind of see it depicted in that way. And of course I was drawn to like the purple, and I was like, what's that? That's me.
Passion.
But it's not at the tippy top. So what's that about?
We can make it. It actually probably would make more sense at the top. So a lot of times you do see the rainbow spectrum, and purple turns to white. And so normally if we were looking at the chakra system in yoga, like red, orange, yellow, like it ascends up. So we can flip that around for you. And I'm going to make my own graphic. And so maybe I'll consider that. So you can feel like, because I do think
I feel like I'm at the top. No, I don't need to.
That purpley white is actually like, because then it turns white and then it turns to all color. Anyway, if we want to get into like light stuff. But yeah, and you mentioned the visual piece, and even if that's just something that viewers are connecting with, because we're visual learners first and foremost. I mean, the majority of people need to see something. So maybe just even having that chart can connect something deeper versus just hearing it. Most people need to see it and hear it, and then maybe even kinesthetically figure out, whatever next time you're feeling. We're actually going to do a little kinesthetic thing here in a moment.
Ooh.
So yeah, so the big joy. So part of the intention today was connect to your big joy. And I said big joy. Again, it could be big happiness, big love, big truth, like whatever that biggest feeling is, wherever you feel like the high vibe, whether you let yourself go there frequently or not, that doesn't totally matter, but knowing that it exists. And we can do a lot of things like upper limit ourselves, create that glass ceiling for ourselves. But it's like, but when we're aware that we limit ourselves, so we can kind of put that aside. We know that there's something greater. So I'm talking about like, how do we remember that there is something greater? So that big joy. So I actually did not make this up, but I really loved it. I found it the other day, and it's sort of this, it's like a love-hate test. And the body is such a great tool for all of this. Not only does it carry us through life, but it can be this compass, we feel emotion in the body. If we override what's going on in the body, when we feel emotion in the body, that's how we can let things manifest even deeper. Sicknesses, things develop where, again, you can drink all the green juice, you can exercise your butt off, you can sleep 12 hours a night. But if you're still not emotionally, energetically healthy and approaching stress and things like that, that's when things can still go awry. We all probably know the healthiest persons can still get, health conditions or whatever. So anyway, the body's there. Oh, someone
Before
here.
Terry wanted to chime in. He said, I really like how it can help you understand how you truly feel when you're reflecting on your projects instead of how you think you should feel.
Love that, Terry.
With regards to the vibe checks, but he thought it was the vibe checks, self check-ins are really cool.
Cool.
So,
yeah, totally. Just, yeah. And in a way, and it's like, so bypassing things, that's one thing. And then just consciously choosing is another. And so back to the chart for a second, it's like, yeah, it's one thing to just kind of override that underlying feeling and just like kind of pushing through, like me doing the puzzle. Like maybe there was a phase where I was sort of overriding the fact that I was not enjoying it. It was not actually serving me in any way other than I must finish this puzzle. So there, I was bypassing for a minute. And then I was like, wait, let me look at what's actually going on under the surface, and feeling like, yeah, I'm actually just a little pissed off at this whole process of the puzzle. I'm mad that the display is wrong, that the pieces are so small. Like, this is not what I had intentionally set out for this project to be. And guess what? I can change it. So it's like bypassing can happen, and that can happen in all sorts of ways, all sorts of things. But when we are, ready and have enough tools to actually look at something, so maybe that chart lets us actually label, oh, this is really where I'm at emotionally. This is why it does not feel good. This is why I actually wanted to overwrite it and not look at it, because this is the truth of what's going on, kind of thing. So yeah. And then in our projects, I mean, it can definitely highlight. So sometimes, yeah, like what you were sharing with the book writing thing, it's important to just keep going. And there might be things of like burnout or something happening, but the end thing is still there. And we still know like it's something that we're committed to and it feels right in like our gut. Like, yeah, we might have to still move through some gnarly in between energies and things. But so it really just depends on the situation, the person, like there's so many variables to consider. So this is not like a one size fits all point either. But so anyway, the body is a vehicle. It holds the emotion, and emotion is energy in motion. So when we think, okay, what energy is moving through me? So how do we know when something brings us joy or love and when it doesn't? And so there's different things that coaches and people have used through the years. But like I said, this was one I just heard the other day. So Apryl, you can do this with me. It literally takes like less than 20 seconds.
And everybody at home, do it with us too.
Everyone at home, do this. Terry, anybody else watching live on replay, I swear this will like change things for you, because I'm steeped in this stuff and it still was like, whoa, this is cool. So you don't have to share anything, but just think, and you can close the eyes if you want, but think of something that you love, like deeply love. Like, I love this thing. I love like that real love. So hold that feeling. Let there be something like arise in probably your heart, your body, what love feels like. I love. And then invite your brain to think about something that you hate. You can use the H word, hate. Like, I hate. What do you hate? It could be anything. Feel it in the body. And then tell your brain to say, I love the thing that you hate. I love the thing that you hate. And notice what comes up. So for me, when I do that, I feel like this immediate sort of block jarriness inside of me. It's like, I don't love that. How dare you tell me that I love that? I hate that thing. Did you feel anything, Apryl? Could you feel
I don't, you probably rewind this and just watch, but when you're like, I love that thing that you hate, and I like made this weird like grimace on my face while my eyes were closed, like, wait, what? Yeah. I'm not gonna do that. So yes, Definitely that was the first thing. And then I was like, okay, let me just try to release that a little bit for the purpose of the exercise. Oof.
Right. Well, and I was surprised. I was like, oh yeah. And so when we can remember, I mean, I think of my parents right away. They're like the loves of my life. And so that was just the immediate, like, oh, that's like that unconditional love. Or maybe it's a pet, maybe it's something that you love to do. Like maybe there is that level of passion, or it could be anything, but just getting to that place where it's not just like, yeah, I love my journal. Like maybe you really love your journal, but it's like, no, let's go like to that deepest, realest love, intimate, like whatever you don't need to share with anybody. And then the thing that you really hate. And I think sometimes it's like, don't hate, love over hate, but like hate is a real emotion. Hate is something, it's such a great tool. It shows us what we do not want, especially those of us that have been a little muddled through the years of people pleasing and things like that. We just think we need to please everybody and be everybody's best friend and be everybody's favorite. We're not made for everybody. Like we are not meant to be for everybody. How boring would that be if we all liked the same things and didn't like the same things? So to really own the things, like hate is a strong word, sure. And it's a strong feeling. And so that little test, so then knowing that, like that, that like grimacy, like, no way. So then when you're moving through work, you're moving through life, you're meeting people, you're meeting things, you're adding new to-dos and projects. When you start to feel a little of that, or like, that's not what I love. Instead of forcing yourself to love something that you hate, take that on, and you still get to choose. okay, I'm still going to do the thing, even though my body is telling me, and I'm feeling like maybe this isn't right, but maybe you still are that type of person that has to just try it out for yourself. And that's okay. And that's another part of being human, is having free will and choice, and you get to make decisions for yourself, kind of thing. So anyway, that for me was such a, like, a new aha that I haven't ever, it's like first time I presented this, I put it on Instagram the other night too, but it's like, I think can really help some people start to discern a little more of, like, what does that even mean to, like, move towards your big joy, or connect with the body, or, follow your heart or truth or gut. Like, oh yeah, what do you hate? Do you love what you hate? No. And let that inner compass, that inner feeling, steer you through different points. So if you have any other favorite tools to anybody, like, please feel free to share, because I'm always down for these, like, quick little games. I bet Gary has some stuff too in his tool bag of.
Yeah, he's in the chat, but I know that he's hanging out for a little bit. Ooh, and Amber's here. Terry said that going through that exercise, he had massive repulsion.
Okay.
And then Amber just said, loving the check-ins with how your body feels. Trust your intuition. Yes, we talked a lot about that at the retreat as well.
Yeah. I mean, intuition lives in the body, in the belly, not in the head. And that's, like, I think, especially for all the thinkers and the planners and the doers, it's so important to get clear on that intuition is not neck up. Brain is great, can help us solve a lot of problems, etc. Tells us, like, when we should cross the street, like, all the stuff. And if we're talking about intuition, it's in your belly. And so it's like, follow your heart, but I've started to tag on, follow your heart, but trust your gut. And it's important to listen to both, and also recognize the heart wants love, compassion, feel good, no hate, just love. But then the gut's going to steer you to the truth of the situation. So just be mindful that also in this whole thing of, listen to the body, and then get even more specific. Is it time to listen to your heart? Like, follow the heart, but then trust your gut. So I think that gut instinct, that intuition lives in the belly, in my opinion. And from a lot of the spiritual work that I've done and people that I follow, it's like that lives there, a little bit lower. And we all know those times in our life where we've felt the gut instinct. We've probably even said, listen to your gut. I'm trusting my gut on this. Like, we have all these little taglines for a reason, that incorporate the body, because, like, that's it. Like, it's true. Okay. So I also wanted to tie in, as we're looking at, okay, this webinar is actually about the annual planning of 2023. So although I've kind of meandered through the emotional piece, I hope those of you watching can sense, like, that is still so important, even if it's like a rinse and repeat or a little different angle from those of you that were at the retreat in person a couple weeks ago. But it's like, keep holding that easeful, energetic piece as much as you're holding the effort and the to-dos, which is so important as well, especially for people like me, where I could live all day in this, like, energetic-y thing. But I was actually reminded earlier today that it's 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration. So meaning that the work is a big part. You could probably play with the numbers a little bit, but I'm an idea person. So I was actually telling my healer therapist, like, I've got all these ideas always. And she's like, ideas are great, but that's the 1%. And this is coming from a lady who's, like, done shaman work, all this stuff, right? So there is effort definitely incorporated in creating the life you want, which is why we're all here for the ASC for the most part. So the other piece to just toy with is, life happens in cycles, whether we want to call it just like the lifiness of life. But when we actually look at what's going on in any cycle, in any situation, it can be life from birth to death. It can be from morning to night. It can be in a month, from the 1st of the month to the 30th or 31st of the month. It could be in a year, right? There's all these cycles in time and life, as we know. There's seasonal cycles. We've got spring through winter, or we've got the beginning of spring to the end of spring. So we've got all these cycles constantly happening and spinning. We've got the dishwasher cycle. We've got the washing machine cycle. We've got cycles. And so any cycle has those things: a beginning, a middle, an ending. And there's oftentimes the overlooked space. So there's space in between everything. And so can you imagine, Apryl, you're a musician. I don't know if you read do you read music?
Yes.
So in music, we've got music notes. Mm-hmm. There'd be no music if they were all jumbled together. Like, it seems kind of silly, but it's like, we have to have space from one music note to the next to even make a song. Otherwise it'd just be, so we need space for many things, including just something as simple as that. Or like the life example of the common one is you go through kindergarten to you graduate high school. And then what do people say? What's next? Where are you going to college? Okay, there's a lot of options. It's not just college, and there's gap years, there's things, but it's usually, all right, what's next? Sometimes it's even an overlap. There's not even any space. Like I did it too. Like a lot of people have those dual credits, like, wow, not even end of high school because you're already in college, or you graduate, whatever. Okay, now what? Where's the job? Or you finish one job instead of, and this is becoming more common, but a lot of times, like, what are you going to do? What's the next job? What's the next thing? What's the next? Oh my gosh, like that's so exhausting even to just say. So I want to share an image just because it's an image. Let's see if I have it still handy here. Just for the visual folk out there, it's what I've been swirling my hands around doing, but we've got beginnings, we've got middles, we've got endings, and we've got space. So what I want to invite for everyone here is to know, and this is just a really great self-awareness tool as you're moving through life, as you're doing your annual planning, as all of it. So whatever, and some of you, Amber and Terry, if you're still here, if you're going to think about a goal. So we did our whole Post-it note breakdown. We looked at certain projects that we want to accomplish. And so the things that actually have phases to them, especially. So we already know that there's a beginning, there's going to be a middle, and then the end is ideally that project is completed type of thing, even though it might have some other layers and whatnot, right? So you already have been doing this consciously, a little bit of breaking down, like, okay, and let's get to the next step. And April's so good at that, like giving us like, okay, and then how are you going to get there? Because we can just wish and visualize, but it actually takes some insertion of like doing things, the perspiration. So when we're doing all of that, then still knowing for yourself, where are your favorite spots of cycles? Are you really awesome at beginnings and you love beginning things? Are you really good at being in process? Are you actually a good closer? Like you love endings? Or are you someone who you just really like being in that space in between? So, and another example I use when I share this is kind of like parties. Like if you think of going to a party or dinner, like whatever, like, do you love the arrival? Do you love like saying, hey to everybody? You love like the anticipation of getting there, like the beginning part? Or are you good, like you kind of just want to sneak in, but you like being there. You like being around the people. You like being in the motion of it. Or are you someone who like when it's time to say goodbye, you're like hugging everybody, saying goodbye to everybody twice, like, but out of just like really wanting that closure? Or are you someone who like the Irish goodbye, like just sneaks out of the party? So how are you with like ending the party? Or are you someone who really would just rather be like not there, just kind of in the in-between? And what you might find in just reflecting on that one example, that whatever your favorite thing is, it probably is true to a lot of different cycles. So if you think of how you are at starting a project, or maybe what others come to you for, maybe people are like, oh my gosh, like Rebecca, you're an idea person. Like, let's like work on this spaciousness, turning it into the beginning of something. Yeah, let's create. Or maybe someone comes to Apryl for the middles and they're just like, Apryl, like you're so good at like figuring things out in the middle. Like I've got this idea and now I don't know what's next. So maybe it's, and I'm not saying that this is your preferred spot, Apryl, but just like an example. Or maybe we all know I'm not great at ending things, the puzzle included, which is where I was hitting a head for myself of like, you're working on your endings. You need to learn how to end things better and finish the puzzle. But it was like, no, that actually doesn't feel good. But that being said, I know that endings, I'm really good at starting things, but it's like even decorating the house, like I'd rather be in the process of it. There's something to that. So it is always that extra effort needed for me in ending things, or ending relationships that aren't serving, ending anything that's just kind of this loose to do, or I'm the person that's rewriting my to-dos from one day to the next. Sometimes that's needed, but other times like just end, just end. So that's where my project usually is the ending. I'm pretty good at the others. So Apryl, in reflecting, just because we've got you here, and anybody in the chat, please, if you're still listening, where are you really excited about, good at, what's your forte? And then also, where is your maybe weak link, or the place that you know is going to take a little more work?
I mean, I think for me, I really struggle. You were talking about the puzzle and how like things weren't working. For me, I feel like once I start something, I have to finish it, no matter how grueling it may be. Some of the people will laugh because like I'll like download a game that I'm like, okay, I need to get rid of this game, but I need to like finish all the games that I'm playing with other people before I can delete it off of my off of my phone and never play it again, because I started it and now I need to end it. And so that's typically the place where I go. I always, and so I think that then the beginning is really hard for me, because when I start, I can't stop, if that makes any sense. The middle is just the middle. I don't really think about that. I think the things that get drawn to me are primarily the beginning and the end, but the end is what I always like to chase. And the beginning is always, like if I'm really going to commit to it, then it's going to make its way all the way to the ending. So that's kind of what comes up for me. And let's see what other people said. Terry says the middle for sure. Starting is 50-50 depending on what I'm trying to do. And I love finishing things, but put them off forever. In parentheses, all of my books. And then he also said same thing with games, which there is a game that I did finish. I was finishing while we were at the retreat and it's done, but I haven't deleted it. So I'm going to delete it off of my phone right
delete
now.
it. Yeah. And the books, like, oh gosh, finishing the books. That's such an example I use a lot too, Terry. It's like, oh my gosh, how many books do I start and I don't finish? And that's, I think, the way a lot of people, they can relate to that. Like, okay, what's it going to take? Just finish the book. And sometimes, and then in comes another tool of awareness of, okay, but maybe it's actually not what I wanted it to be. And don't force yourself to end something that you actually, you don't need to finish the book. Maybe the ending is just putting the book away for good kind of thing. So endings can show up differently. And that's kind of a different conversation, but that was sort of my lesson with the puzzle. It's like, what if the ending isn't in completing the puzzle? The ending is in me just owning the fact that I am done with this, because so many things in life could keep going if we let them. But then it's back to like, is this bringing me joy? Is this like serving the higher purpose, the original intention anymore? Like, no, and no, then why am I still saying yes to it?
I mean,
so
that's
when we,
definitely hard thing too, because you can have, like I've been listening to more audiobooks and reading more books. And one of my plans this year was like, I bought all this stuff, so I need to like read it and I have like a cabinet full of books and I'm like, I want to read all of the books, because here I am, like, I'm making the commitment that I'm going to do it. So I'm going to start and finish. And I just finished a audiobook that was, for the first like 4 or 5 hours of it, it was gruelingly painful. But then it got good at the end. So I was like glad that I waited. But then I was like, there's a part of me that's like, can I just stop? Because I like listening to this voice is just so uncomfortable. But then it got good. So it was just kind of like, where do you let yourself like let go? Because I could have done that. But yeah, it's like, I think people who can kind of acknowledge that, like, nope, this isn't for me, and just kind of let it go in the middle. Like, I mean, it's like kudos, because I struggle with that. I like torture myself all the time. It's something that I need to, understand and be willing to let go of it. But it's so hard. It's so hard.
Well, sometimes it's just a habit, and it's, and I've been learning a little bit more. It's not a habit loop. It's almost like these habits that we just have that, I mean, they're serving something, or so we think. So it's like getting underneath, like, what the pattern is, what the habit is. Like, is it because there's some belief? Like, if you, like for me, if you don't finish it, like, then you're not finishing it. That's not completing if you don't go to the end or see it all the way through. But like, as you know, my last relationship was like very stupid. And it was like, oh, we'll make it better. Oh, but there's no end to it really, like things like that. Some things there's not really an ending. So it's kind of up to us to make the ending.
Yes.
Like, the book doesn't necessarily end on the last page, though it could. It really just depends on like your belief system, I think. And some of it, sure, like there's norms and whatnot. But yeah, it's like, I think then you're so masterful with values, and it's using these other tools that we have and these other resources of like, okay, what am I doing? Is this even when I'm in the middle of the thing that I'm making myself do? And he said, like, torturing yourself. Like, how does that fit in with your values? And like finding these other inner compasses that we have, whether it's the values, whether it's like just checking your body, like, do I need to finish this? And just seeing even what the body starts to say. Maybe it gives you that repulsion of like, no, then like, why would you override the wisdom of the body and the intuition and the highest knowing? But it's our brain, it's our to-doer. It's, it's like, oh, but we got to do this. And our beliefs are in the brain. Our belief systems are formed from all the thoughts that we've been programmed to think. Some of it's from parents, some of it's from society, all the stuff. So it's just another way to be a human and have all these like, tools in our tool bags of awareness. And so when it comes to planning your 2023, and I'm going to mention the space in a second, it's like just being ready for it, being ready for life to get lifey, being ready for your own patterns to show up, being ready for maybe the initial, like, I'm going to do this, like, yes. And then you get into it and you're like, this actually is not what I thought it was going to be, and being okay with putting it away. So you don't drain your energy trying to push something through that actually doesn't want to be pushed through, torturing yourself when you could be putting energy into something that's going to be like more light and fruitful. Like there's always more. But sometimes we can just get hung up on that middle, especially those middles or these parts that just hang us up. And sometimes it's not even, sometimes it is just like being done or figuring out how to move through it versus being in this like holding pattern. The thing with space too, because that's something that I don't think everyone understands space, or they want to think that they're good with it. But it's even just like for someone to sit and be okay with just being, not that we need to be still, but those moments of in between, or and not that this is you, Apryl, but like people who run races. I mean, rarely do you want to stack race on race on race. Mm-mm. Right? Like we have to have recovery. So space is recovery time, if we want to think of it in that way, but it's very true to any part of our life. So where do we just fill the day with no gaps, no breaks in our schedule? Where do we fill our calendars from, Monday through Friday or whatever? The weekend is important if we have like that traditional thing. So maybe that's your space. That's good. But what about then even on Saturday, Sunday? Are we like cramming stuff from AM to PM on our days off? Like where do we have the breathing room, the space, the time to literally recover from life itself? So whether it's like this macro notion or micro within our day, or, think of a half marathon. And professional athletes, they rest. Like rarely do we get to hear about all the things they're doing. We just see them perform. And same with any high achiever. It's coming through more and more now that the secrets are that they meditate. The secrets are that they rest. The secrets are that they take silent retreats. Like there's more and more just straight up like truth dropping on this. I've heard one of the ladies I follow a lot brings up Phil Jackson and the Bulls and the Lakers. Like, look at these winning teams. Guess what? Phil Jackson makes them meditate like every day. So they're getting space even when they're NBA athletes, and then they turn out to be like, the champions. But not until now are we learning that for decades, Phil has been having his team do meditation practice. Like, so it's something that we just, in our culture, people haven't wanted to face, but the truth is always going to reveal itself, and it's revealing itself. Like you have to have spaciousness. Otherwise, you can only go so far. So anyway, how do you feel about space, Apryl?
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. Like you were talking about fitness, and my running coach, she always like kind of forces a week-long break, which I embrace because I'm like, oh, I don't have to work out. I get like, 6 hours back of my life for 1 week. But anything that's over a hour-long run, she makes me take a week-long break after the race is over. And I love that. And anytime that I've been remotely feeling sick, it's like, hey, stop working out. It's, like you are going to do yourself a disservice. As much as you want to keep the momentum going, like you've got it, you're fine. Like you've been running like nonstop for, a year and a half straight. Like it's okay. Like you've built up this, I think it is too. It's just like building up that foundation. If you are doing something and you allow yourself to rest, that is okay. It's just knowing like when is rest too much rest, or you're kind of leaning in on that and allowing yourself to get lazy. So that, it's everything is kind of like, you got to toe the line with it, where, space is always great. I personally have been working so hard on creating space, because I used to be exactly who you were saying, like 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, like all the way until like bedtime. And now I have, 8 hours blocked on my calendar for like, nope, this is like go to bed, sleep time. Like if I can't get 6 hours, then it's not good at all. And I definitely messed that up while we were at the retreat, because I had so much adrenaline and still trying to figure out how to navigate that. But creating that space, this whole last couple of weeks since the retreat has happened, I'm like, I'm going to just take things easy. I'm not going to dive back in to life, because I just, poured out all of my energy in the span of 1 weekend. So making sure that you have that time for recovery is so essential. And I think a lot of people don't want to, like there's still so many people that are like, no, but I have so much to do. So I'm going to just keep going. And your body will force you to stop at some point if you don't. So you might as well take the rest when you choose to take the rest, because it's not fun when something external or your body or your mind like dictates it for you. It just makes you even more frustrated. So.
Totally. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. And I'm so proud of you as a friend, because I know that to be true for you. I didn't want to pick on you, but
life.
it's just
I'm like, yeah. I need Rebecca in my life. That reminder.
I mean, I need it too. I need it too in different ways. And so and never like shaming anybody listening. It's like awareness is the most powerful, like muscle flex, it's like having self-awareness is everything. And we encourage that in the ASC for sure. It's like 100%. All these, and it's not just awareness, like meditation awareness. It's having just this awareness of like who you are moving through this world, how you move through the world, what you want in this world, like in this life, and then being able to balance it and harmonize it and like flow with it. And it's never just going to be this, as much as parts of our brain might just want like a straight shot, like life moves like this. So it's always open to flux and flow. And so anyway, as we wrap up, I hope that everyone has felt like within this whole conversation, part of it is like getting a jump start on next year, and everything to what Apryl shared at the very beginning. We like to do this time of year because okay, we already can see Halloween's coming, Thanksgiving, we celebrate all these traditional holidays, like all that comes in. If you've got kids, they're coming home from school, like all the stuff, I'm traveling, like it just gets a little like awesome. I love the holiday times. And when it comes to really looking clearly at what you want 2023 to look like, or whatever next year, now really is the time. And my suggestion always is to like go into the feeling. God, what's her name? Danielle Laporte has core desired feelings, and her whole philosophy is not just values, but feelings. And some of your values they probably will invoke a feeling in the body, but knowing that feeling state is what's really going to be just like that love-hate check. That feeling state is something to lean into first. So when you start to put on paper, well, I should write a book. Like if it's not connected to something that's a core desired feeling / value, like just sit with it a little bit longer and see if that's actually something you want in 2023. Like I could say all these different things that I want, but it's more of just like my brain saying, yeah, you should want this. You should want this. Should keyword, like you should do this. You should do that, versus like, I really want this. This is a desire of mine. This is a way I want to feel as I move through the year, and just see what comes up. Like, how do I want to feel? How do I want to feel? How do I want to feel? And from those feelings, from my experience, things start to formulate in terms of to-dos and actual life events. Like, well, I want to feel really spacious and abundant, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, I actually want to run a yoga retreat. Like this is a new thing that has been in my mind for like 15 years, I think. But it's like, oh, because I connected with the feeling of the life that I want to have and the way I want to see income come in. Whoa, now versus like, I should run a yoga retreat because everybody that teaches yoga runs a yoga retreat, and people, they're going to pay money to go to Hawaii with me. And, it's like, that just feels really flat when I just like say it like I should, versus like, but what's through that? Oh, it's me feeling like this richness of everything that I love and being able to share it in an intimate setting and blah, blah, blah. So just like feeling into the now, like clarity that you have pre-holiday, and just stay with, even if you don't write a single word down, just keep asking yourself, like, how do I want to feel? And just see what comes through. Any final tips from you, Apryl, on like using this time of year and whether they attended or didn't attend the retreat?
I mean, I think that, if you're, at least from my perspective, if you didn't take anything, you're not really sure what to take away from this. I think that it is a message of self-awareness. And I think, as Rebecca was saying, that's something that we very heavily play on before, leading up to the retreat, making sure that you know who you are, what it is that you want, get your feelings in check, just understanding like what's on your plate, what is in your life right now, so that when you start thinking about like, okay, what am I going to do in the near future, whether you're just planning a quarter or the month or the entire year, you take that awareness away with you and build on that, right? Because we already are doing things that we want to do. We might also be doing things that we don't want to do. And if you don't have the awareness around that, you might just keep doing it because it's comfortable and you don't have to make decisions. And sometimes making a decision can be the hardest part of putting together a plan. It's like, do I want to do this? But it's like, I'm so used to doing XYZ, because when you add or take away new things, that either creates, it requires more space, or, gives you extra space to play around with other things that you want to try. So you kind of, we have limited amount of time, and whatever you put those 24 hours in your day towards that's all you got. Then you start again and you do it the next day. And so if you don't have that awareness, both mentally, emotionally, physically, all of these things, like as I get older, I'm like, okay, I have to like tone it down a notch. Like I just have that awareness. Like I can still run the half marathons, but just don't know like how many more I can do. So those types of things that you can ask yourself, like, what is going on in your life right now? What's working? What's not? What feels good? What's not? Having the awareness is what you're going to need in order to create a plan that will be bomb ass. And so
it's true. We need Gary's sound effects.
I know, I'm like, I need to amp up my setup here. So, but yeah, Rebecca, thank you so much for like giving us this good take. A lot of the stuff that I share is very like practical and whatnot, but I think that, just as important as the things that you were sharing at the retreat, it's like this stuff, tuning into, your body and your mind, and all of that is really, really important to pay attention to, which is why we have such a well-rounded experience when we do those things at the retreat. And, many of you who were chiming in live got to, be there in person. And if you're, happening upon this video and you're like, what is this about? We are the Accountability Success Circle. We're a awesome group of adults who are focused on accomplishing the goals that align with our values and priorities. And we prioritize fun and connectedness and all of this amazing stuff. And we're just here to support each other. And so, if you're like, wait, it's October, I want to plan 2023, but you didn't go to the retreat, which is already done. Well, the amazing part about it is that we do have an online version of the retreat that you can go through at your pace. Hopefully, in the next few weeks or so before the holidays get in, but you can also just do it on your own time. But if you are interested in that, feel free to go to accountabilitysuccesscircle.com. There is a choice to get the annual planning retreat for 2023 plus 1 year membership to the Accountability Success Circle for half of the price that you would do to pay for both. So check that out. Accountabilitysuccesscircle.com is that. And thank you so much for those of you who were watching with us live. And for those of you in the community who will see this posted a little later this week, let us know what you think in the comments in our community. And yeah, just come check us out if you are interested and want an amazing community of support. And thank you, Rebecca, for facilitating this conversation. So important. So important. Thank you so much. So
thank you.
We will say goodbye, and I will figure out how to end the stream.
Bye.
So see you later.
Bye for now.
Okay.